I'm psychologist Dr. Brian Violet, and in today's snapshot, we'll be looking at highlights from my conversation with former tennis pro and longtime friend Andrew Salick. We'll be exploring his eclectic spirituality and its implications for grief, a belief in a personal God, and the afterlife. This is the Catholic Sinner Show. So I also want to talk to you. So you know what I do for a living.
Yeah.
It's a major focus of my professional work to integrate psychology and spirituality. And I mean, spirituality is a pretty broad term. I mean, that could include religion,
Yep.
which is like a outward liturgical expression of norms.
Yep.
A lot of people today say things like, I'm spiritual but not religious. They make that distinction. I believe in God, but I don't practice, or I believe in something transcendent. You know, when I think of spirituality, by that I mean the relationship with God, with a personal God. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, spirituality encompasses many things. It could include philosophy.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's like Buddhism is essentially a philosophy, but just your understanding of what the human person is.
Yeah.
And then what, you know, the science of psychology. And they are, in my opinion, deeply related and affect one another.
Right.
Coming into this conversation,
Yeah.
you expressed a little bit of reservation about this topic.
Yeah.
Say more about that. Like, what, you didn't really want to get into it? I mean, I think for you, maybe it was closely related to politics.
Yeah.
It's not
maybe.
the same, but they're, like, can we talk about religion? Do you want to stay
It is
away?
kind of sometimes similar. We could totally talk about it, but I do think it's funny, like, right? Like, you hear these, these cliches out there, like, what do you people don't talk about religion or politics at the dinner table. Like,
Yeah.
comes up. It's like a thing, and it's probably because I think people, when someone has their own views, and if, someone feels strongly one way and there's a counter view, that could, a debate, which I am always for even-keeled debates and
Sure.
and someone who's being reasonable, but sometimes those debates can trickle into arguments and, and then it's tougher.
Yeah, I think people make this connection between what I believe and who I am.
Yeah.
So if you disagree with what I believe, you disagree with me as a person.
Right.
That's the common
Right.
perspective
Right.
nowadays.
Right.
And so politics and religion, if we disagree, that means you reject me. And so that gets me heated and I push back and I argue with you.
Right. And I would kind of disagree with that, right? Because I just feel like...
certainly.
And you too. Like, I think you're someone who clearly has exhibited being, like, very open to, many different people's religions and their views on politics. And so, no, I would be happy to talk about it. I'm Catholic. I grew up in the Catholic Church, Ukrainian Catholic. So...
particular type of Catholic. Particular flavor of Catholic.
Type of flavor of Catholic. I still, I have those virtues and those beliefs. I believe in God, like I have those beliefs.
A personal God. Not just like there's something out there. It's like, no, there's a person, a God who loves you. You believe that?
I don't know that, actually. No, I don't think that's how I would say it. I know.
Okay.
I think this is a good conversation to kind of expound on this.
Tease it out.
Tease it out.
Yeah.
No, I think my belief more so is about, and maybe this is a good opportunity after, doing this with you and taking some more time to reflect on it, is like to really hash out like how I feel and my beliefs. I feel like some of those, even as an adult, a grown male adult, like I might not still have all that sorted out.
Sure.
I believe in, it's kind of like what you said a moment ago. It's like, I do have strong beliefs in something that is
Something more
than great. It's
transcendent. Yeah.
greater than us. Something that is out there. I do feel strongly that, I pray every night. I get on my knees, like I pray.
To who?
So I pray to God, but I don't specifically saying, like, prefacing it, this is like I'm praying to my own personal God. I'm sending a prayer out to,
like, the universe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's listening?
That's a great question. I know. And I haven't thought about it in that type of detailed way, and I should, quite frankly. I think I am someone who, I'm spiritual in nature.
Mm-hmm.
I think being religious, or I think having these types of beliefs, I think it's important. I feel like it's healthy.
Something transcendent, something beyond this, which guides me.
Yeah, it helps guide you, and I think that I grew up that way, obviously in the Catholic Church, and you're believing, in these things, but ultimately just even, as an adult, like,
Did you once believe in a personal God who loves you? Or was that never really, were you never really sure about that?
I never really was sure about that. Like an actual personal, like a personal God for me.
Like monotheism.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that what you believe? Or?
Yeah. No, I'm Catholic.
Yeah, I know, but like personal God that's just specific to you.
What do you mean by specific?
Well,
I mean, I'm Catholic, so I believe in the Trinity of three persons, which is a mystery.
yep.
The Son of God,
Yep.
who is God,
Yep.
came into this world
Yep.
2,000 years ago and died for my sins.
Yes.
And he loves me. And because of this, I was invited into this Trinitarian love
Yep.
of the Father. And, I mean, this is all mystery, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. But like the Holy Spirit.
No, you do.
I mean, kind of, but still, it's mystery still. Like the Holy Spirit empowers me to say yes to this and participate in the divine life. And
Right.
like I believe God who loves me. And when you say like specific to me, I believe that Christ would have died just for me. He died for everyone, but he would have done it just for me. And he hears me specifically. When I pray, he hears me.
Right.
And his Spirit, the Holy Spirit, is within me.
Yes.
And this whole life is about me returning to God the Father. So that's very specific and articulated.
Yes. Yes.
So I do believe in, yes, a monotheistic personal God, which is, there's three major religions that hold this view. It's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam and Muslims.
Right.
As distinct from more Eastern faiths.
Yep.
Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, those kinds of faiths that are more like they've taken a more pantheistic type of approach, and kind of it's been absorbed into this syncretic all one,
right,
or in some cases like all nothingness.
Yes.
Like it's all one thing.
Right.
That's Eastern faith. I mean, nowadays, like these things are all blending, so you can't even say that it's Eastern and Western. There's a lot of Eastern belief in the United States.
Right.
And there's Western thought. Western monotheism has made its way into the global East.
Yeah.
But traditionally, that's where those religions gained popularity.
Right.
Yes, I believe in a personal God who loves me.
Right. Right. I think, it's so interesting. I feel like, it's a topic that is very mysterious. There's so many unknowns.
Sure.
Right. And there's a lot of questions, and people have a lot of questions around this, So I think like my faith is something, like having faith is important to me, and having spirituality and something that's greater than me, those types of things. But but so in general though, like
well, like when you heard me talk about like me articulate my faith, were you like, he's crazy?
No.
Okay. What was your interior response to me sharing what I believe, which is very specific? Yes.
No, I enjoyed listening to it. And to me that felt like you have perspective and you have conviction in your thoughts and your beliefs, and so no, I didn't think that was crazy at all.
What's interesting is I like what I just said to you and articulated it in that way.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever said it in those terms to anyone in our friend group and in our social strata at all. There's no space to talk about faith anymore.
Right.
Like certainly no one's going to ask me.
Right.
But two, when is there going to be a circumstance that comes up where I'm like, this is what I believe?
Right. I know.
It's like a private thing that no one really knows that
I know.
Brian would talk about.
But why should it be that way?
I don't know. That's why I'm doing the show. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think we should be fighting over this, because I also believe from a Catholic perspective that faith is a gift.
Right.
And there's a mystery involved with, even like, I believe in God. I believe in a personal God. But I don't know why, even in my belief system, why God gives the gifts of faith to certain people at certain times in their life.
Right.
And not other people at different times in their life. And the mystery of, God calling to people and whether or not they can hear him and whether or not they're saying yes to that call. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. So I'm certainly not judging anybody for not believing what I believe. So I'm happy to have a conversation about it.
Right.
I'm very interested in listening to people articulate where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. It's like, for me, I think some of those very specific beliefs that you described are ones that I think I probably still like have trouble with, to try to like for myself to try to like fully have conviction. Does that make sense or no?
Of course.
And there's a lot of people that are in that camp. I would
Of course.
imagine.
Why? Do you know why? Have you thought of? I mean, you probably haven't thought of, but I'm asking you now.
Yeah.
If you take a moment to think about why that there's like an obstacle to believing that a personal God loves Andrew.
Right. Yeah. What is the obstacle? Is it just a matter of like not having this conviction or proof, or not being able to like point to a certain thing that you could then kind of justify reason?
Have you had spiritual experiences in your life, like emotional experiences where you're like, wow, this is not all there is. There's something beyond this, like that emotionally resonated with you? Not just conceptually, but emotionally.
Right.
A lot of times people find that kind of thing in nature.
Right.
It's like, wow, the grandeur of this mountain is
No. I know what you're saying. I think yeah, it's more so, I guess it comes in moments of life with, when there's grief, or there's, like, I feel like sometimes you could feel that emotion, and you can feel like, okay, like,
it doesn't make sense that this is the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had that.
Like how could my love of my grandfather be limited to space and time?
Right.
No way. This is way bigger than that.
It's way bigger than that. Yeah, exactly. So like there's that type of thing. I think I don't know, like we just had like Lauren's father pass away in June, my
Your
father-in-law, that I was really, really, really close with him. And I felt during that stretch of time, I found myself like praying more often, and kind of like seeking guidance, and kind of just having this emotional connection to something that was bigger than me.
Yeah.
Right. And having like, and needing that, but then also feeling in a weird way, like feeling the love coming back, and like the comforting nature.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, I don't even know like what I was really asking for, except for just like, I need help. This is a tough time for, for me, for my wife, for my kids. They love their grandfather. So it's just
so
like,
hard for the kids.
And they're at that age. It's like, they're not old enough where they can fully understand like all these things, right? Like it's just,
where is he?
Where is he, and why is he not here? Why can I not see him anymore? But they're not young enough where we can just all of a sudden like sweep it under the rug. It's not like it's a baby that's not going to remember this person. Like they have distinct memories with their papa, like, so like, Rosie, for example, like heartbreaker. I remember when we had to, my wife and I had to like sit them on the couch, and we had to like let them know that what had happened, that, Papa has passed on, and we're saying he's gone to heaven, and, you won't be able to see him anymore, but he's still here with us, like those types of things.
Gosh, just right now, listen,
dude, it was so
crushing.
And she had such an incredible child response to something that like, right, like you think about it and you're like, oh, like this is perfect that you're asking this question. I don't have a good answer for you, but man, it's so cool to hear how little kids think and how their brains react. But she was just like, Dad, I don't understand. Like, are there no phones in heaven? Like, why can't we just call him? Right? And it's like, of course, like a little 6-year-old is gonna, or she was 5 at the time, but it's like, of course, like, why would there not be phones there?
Concrete is like heaven is a concrete place where they should have cell phones.
Yeah, they should have
cell phone towers. Yeah. Oh.
And so like that thing, like I remember thinking, she's so sweet, and she's obviously processing this and trying to think and ask questions and articulate, but like I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah.
There's no cell phones there.
No, there's no cell phones there. There's no cell phone towers there. But did you share with her the view that you will see him again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And
so that's not, so it's interesting hearing just like holding up a mirror, like
I know,
to what you're saying. So it's like, I don't believe in a personal God. So it's more like Eastern, which is like this transcendent oneness of all of us being connected. But the belief that I will see him again
is
it reflects personhood within transcendent, whether maybe not personal God, but I will still be me when I get there.
Yeah.
And your grandpa will still be him when he gets there. So personhood exists in the transcendent realm.
Yeah. So there's confusion here.
Well, I mean, it's probably just stuff to sort out and think through. That's all. You know?
Yeah. But that was helpful. Like, I think that, I don't know. I can actually see both sides of it, but I do think that during that stretch of time with, you know, my father-in-law passing away, which was a really tough time for our family a few months ago, and Lauren and him had, you know, that was a very classic daddy-daughter relationship. I mean, she's still to this day. I mean, this happened months ago, and, you know, I still catch her kind of crying and having moments of
course,
grief.
I mean, such a good relationship probably, I mean, I'm not going to say probably, I know this for a fact, that such a good relationship between a father and daughter opened her up to a healthy marriage.
I hope so.
It opened her up to a healthy marriage. I mean, like that father-daughter dynamic is so important, and in terms of the type of man that she chooses. And so, I mean, he was a good man. You're a good man. So there's a lot of gratitude to be extended his way.
Totally. Oh my gosh, I know that. I appreciate that. No, it makes me feel good, and I do think that. And Lauren will say this too. Like we were similar, and we are, you know, similar in very many ways. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He was someone who, you know, open house, open heart, loved everyone. He was just also someone who enjoyed being out. Like I love being out and talking to people and entertaining, and that was how he was. And strong family man too. Like I respect so many things about he just, I mean, it was amazing for me to have that time with him, and I truly viewed him as, you
those
know,
family values. If you have family values, you don't want someone that doesn't.
Exactly.
It's because it just becomes the most important thing.
Yeah. So no, I'm happy we talked about that. It makes me feel good, and to be honest, it's just, you know, getting these types of things out, and, you know, I found myself almost like wanting to cry just now, like thinking about losing him, and it's like, but then you kind of feel like, you know, this whole idea of like he's in a better place. Like I truly do believe that. So that again speaks to my religiousness, right? And how I feel.
Yeah.
And I truly do believe that, and I feel that way. So there's the anger and the frustration and the grief and the sorrow when you lose someone important to you.
Yes.
But then there's also the other side of it that you feel like, okay, he's not in pain anymore. Like he had been suffering a little bit.
How long has it been since he passed?
He just passed in June.
In June. You know, I think
6 months.
You know, I think I remember saying this to you after your grandfather died, who was very much a father figure for you. It's so funny. The memory is a funny thing. I remember saying this to you then, and I think it applies now. I think one of the hardest parts of grief, of losing someone, is not quite when they die, because that's when everybody's around and trying to console you. It's 6 months later where it still hurts.
Yeah.
And no one's asking anymore.
Right.
But you're still in pain.
Yeah. That's how we feel. I mean, that's how it is. And I think that, you know, Lauren comes from a family that's a strong, pretty large family. So there's a good system of support there. Right. So I think, and, we've been trying everything we can to, we're close with, we've been very close with Lauren's mom, with Sharon, and we continue to be that way. And she's a strong lady, and I give her so much credit because now she's alone. I mean, they're married for almost 50 years. They would have in 2024, there would have been their 50th wedding anniversary. So can you imagine, like,
50 years of a spouse
being with someone for almost 50 years?
Well, you hear about when one spouse dies, the other one dies within like a year or two, because so much of your psychology is bound up in that dynamic.
Exactly.
It's like, what am I going to do now? Like, now I'm just waiting to die so I can be with my beloved again. Very common, like, even if unconsciously. With people.
Yeah. So it is. You're right. It's like, it's not that first week or two afterwards. You're kind of caught up in the rush of like, okay, you're seeing a lot of family. You're with people, and there's that. But then it's like, we're pretty much at that 6 month mark now, and it's still very raw and emotional, and it's tough. And we're coming up against the holiday season now, so I kind of just feel like he was the guy that would cook all the meals and do all this stuff. And
you gonna be that guy?
I try to help out. I would love to. I think that,
What's stopping you from, like, all right, there's a vacuum here, there's a gap here, someone's got to be the new paterfamilias.
Yeah. Nothing really. I think, but what we want to do too is, like, and Lauren's brother Nick is great, and like her mom also too. So I just feel like we're gonna step up, and it'll be totally fine. I mean, Lauren's a great cook, and we all, nothing's preventing that.
She make a nice pierogi though? No. Well, she's not native Ukrainian. So it's okay.
Yeah. We'll get there.
We'll do language classes for the kids.
Yeah, and then
pierogi classes.
Yeah, right. Right. No, but I think this holiday season, you know, if we're getting obviously like very real with, you know, family and spirituality and, you know, religion, but then also just like the whole psychology of how do you move on from losing someone like that? Like there's
The final stage of acceptance.
there's steps to that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, even, you know, the classic DABDA, they call it: denial, anger, bargain, depression, and then the final stage being acceptance. And the acceptance that someone is gone. You know, I heard someone, I'll never forget that they said this. It was a person that we know, and his mother died, and I hadn't seen him in a couple years. I saw him after a few years, and his mother had died, and I was, you know, you're just talking to people, catching up. How's your mom? And he's like, oh, she died. She died a couple years. We lost mom a couple years back. And I said, like, I'm so sorry. That's awful. And he goes, thanks. It's part of life. That's just such a simple phrase that, you know, I haven't lost my parents yet.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that phrase, that's the end goal for me in relation to someone I love dying, is to accept it's part of life. And you go through the emotions, you go through the pain,
right?
But to accept that this happens to everyone,
right?
And I have to come on board with the reality of what it is,
right?
And it doesn't need to be a constant source of distress. You never get over it. You never get over someone dying.
No,
ever.
No.
The people that have died in my life, like you still feel tethered to them.
Yeah.
You know, like I heard a priest say one time, it was one of the best homilies I've ever heard at a funeral. He said, you know, the fact that it hurts is good.
Yeah.
That's you being tethered to them through the doors of death. Like that's the line. It should hurt. That's the love. It should hurt. And I was like, that's a really consoling way to think about it.
It is, actually.
Yeah. So
I don't know. My grandfather, I will tell you now, like I literally think about this guy every day.
Every day.
Every day.
That's so cool.
And it's you know, 2008, you know, so we're 15 years, you know, almost. It was December 2008, so it'll be 15 years next month. And it still hurts.
Yeah.
You know?
It'll always hurt. It should never not hurt.
Right.
It's invalidating for someone to say you should, you know, move on.
Yeah.
You don't move on.
Right.
Because love is eternal.
Love is eternal. Yeah.
Yeah.